Coming up on this Monday edition of Daybreak, furious at new US sanctions, North Korea denies any involvement in the Sony Pictures hack and accuses Washington of stirring up hostility. The Japanese government releases a video that makes fresh territorial claims to the Korea-controlled Dokdo Island. Plus, search teams recover 4 more bodies from the Java Sea as the hunt to find the main wreckage of the AirAsia crash enters a second week. Daybreak begins now. Hello and thanks for joining us. To our viewers around the world, it's 6 a.m. on Monday, January 5th. Here in Seoul, I'm Mark Broome and you're tuned in to Daybreak. And we begin with North Korea's sharp rebuke of the United States after Washington slapped new sanctions on the regime for its alleged cyber attack on Sony Pictures. And while North Korea is furious, its anger is only being directed at the US, not South Korea. Watchers say the change in tone towards Seoul means the North is probably serious about wanting to reopen high-level dialogue with the South. Hwang Ji-ae starts us off.
North Korea denounced the U.S. on Sunday for imposing more sanctions on Pyongyang in the wake of a cyber attack on Sony Pictures. U.S. President Barack Obama authorized the new sanctions as the administration believes the hacking attack was conducted by the North. The Korean Central News Agency said that the fresh sanctions are proof of Washington's hostility toward Pyongyang. It added that the sanctions would solidify the North's resolve to strengthen its military-first policy. Pundits say, however, the North's comments reflect its sense of crisis.
North Korea is trying to develop its economy by attracting foreign capital. And to do that, it's announcing the creation of special economic zones. But the new U.S. sanctions will make it harder for foreign investors to go to North Korea.
The North's tone, however, was drastically different towards South Korea. Pyongyang's main newspaper, the Nodong Sinmun, reported no criticism of the South on Sunday, even on the 6th page of the newspaper, which usually prints feisty remarks against Seoul. North Korea's main propaganda website, Uri Minjokgiri, also said Sunday that both Seoul and Pyongyang should work together to open up a way for an independent unification of the two Koreas.
North Korea wants to show that the U.S. sanctions will be ineffective by improving relations with the South. And to do that, there's a probability that the North will use South Korea.
Pundits add the change in attitude also reflects the North's willingness to revive inter-Korean dialogue and to create an atmosphere for the talks. They say North Korea could propose a new form of dialogue as early as this week. Hwang Ji-ae, Arirang News.
Now, Japan is upping its campaign of territorial claims on Korea's Dokdo Island. In its latest video uploaded onto YouTube, Tokyo once again makes erroneous claims that the islands are part of Japan. And this comes as Japan is poised to expand an investigation on developing energy sources in the East Sea. Our Son Jung-in has the details.
This is a video released by the Japanese government titled Islands, Once the Home of Mechi or Sea Lions. The author of a book with the same title teaches elementary school students that Korea's easternmost islet of Dokdo, Takeshima as it's known in Japan, was the habitat of sea lions where Japanese fishermen used to catch fish.
Children playing with sea lions dreamed of becoming a fisherman so they could catch fish in Takeshima.
The 17-minute-long video was uploaded onto YouTube by an office affiliated to the Japanese cabinet. It will be used as elementary school material to teach children that Dokdo is Japanese territory.
Japan's Takeshima is waiting for us beyond the waves.
The Japanese government has been intensifying its history distortion by making unjustified claims to Dokdo. In 2013, Tokyo distributed a video claiming sovereignty over Korea's islets, and last year it stated in elementary school textbooks that Korea is illegally occupying the territory.
In 1905, the Japanese government reaffirmed its intention to claim sovereignty over Takeshima by a cabinet decision.
It's not stopping there either. Along with its persistent promotional activities, Japan is also aiming to secure the abundant resources the islets offer. Tokyo plans to invest some $18 million to carry out research on methane hydrate in the East Sea. Studies suggest some 600 million tons of the future energy resource is located around Dokdo. 손정인, Arirang News.
Now, frosty diplomatic relations between Korea and Japan are starting to take a toll on one of their few healthy areas of exchange still. In recent months, cultural exchanges between the two countries have started to dry up quite a lot. Our Kim Ji-yeon reports.
Japanese colonization of Korea ended in 1945, but it wasn't until 1998 that the country decided to open its doors to cultural exports from Japan. There was general fear that Japanese culture would again dominate Korean society. But in fact, the move benefited Korea's entertainment industry as Korean TV dramas and music gained popularity in Japan. But recent territorial and historical disputes between the two countries are putting a damper on those exchanges.
Cultural exchanges between Korea and Japan are not properly taking place as it used to because of heightened tensions induced by Tokyo's aggressive attitude towards Korean culture.
And the breakdown in cultural ties between Seoul and Tokyo is only getting worse. Prime example of this was when iconic Korean singer Lee Seung-chul was denied entry to Japan last November. Japanese officials at the time said the decision to reject Lee was due to his use of marijuana some 20 years ago. But Lee's agency argued that the refusal had more to do with a concert he performed on Korea's easternmost Dokdo Island, which Japan also claims as part of its territory. The Hallyu or Korean wave is estimated to have brought in more than $65 million from Japan in 2008. But the amount started to decline in 2010 to just over $50 million, marking the first drop in 6 years. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
A Korean healthcare worker exposed to the Ebola virus while treating a patient in Sierra Leone has tested negative in an initial blood test. The medic, whose identity remains confidential, was flown to a hospital in Berlin over the weekend. The person has yet to show any signs of the virus, any symptoms rather, but will remain under observation for 3 weeks, which is the incubation period for Ebola. Now, this worker suffered an injury with a hypodermic needle while collecting blood from an Ebola patient in Sierra Leone. Korea's foreign ministry says the foreign ministry says that it will stay in close consultation with the hospital and the German government over the next few weeks. Seoul plans to send an additional 20 medical workers to the West African country in the coming months. Fear is rising that Korea could be facing another foot and mouth disease crisis, as there have been more than 30 confirmed cases around the country since the first case was confirmed in Korea's Chungcheongbuk-do province last month. Holding an emergency meeting on Sunday, the Agriculture Ministry ordered that emergency vaccinations be given to livestock in areas where the disease has been reported. There were also discussions on whether to start sterilizing vehicles that pass through infected areas, but a final decision on that was not reached. Korea regained its status as a nation free of foot and mouth disease last year after more than 3 million livestock were culled after the disease broke out at the end of 2010.
We start before the sun rises to bring you the latest stories out of Korea. We also lead the way with important global coverage. Stay on the pulse of what is happening with Daybreak.
Now, a Korean satellite that was on a crash course with a piece of space debris has avoided what could have been a potentially devastating collision. Officials from the Science Ministry and the Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology said they successfully communicated with the Science and Technology Satellite 3 on Sunday night and confirmed it was still working normally. Late last week, the United States warned Korea that the satellite could hit a 20-centimeter piece of debris that was produced after a Russian and US satellite crashed into each other in 2009. Officials say they changed the satellite's altitude to ensure it avoided the debris. The Korean satellite, launched in November 2013, is used to forecast geological events. The Korean government is going to inject $3.5 billion into research and development for science and technology and the information and communications technology sectors this year. The Ministry of Science, ICT and Future Planning says it will allocate around $2.5 billion to the science and technology sector, while the rest will be invested in the ICT sector. The investment amount is up almost 8% from last year. And with the added funds, the ministry expects to speed up the process of creating new growth engines based on information and communications technology. Credit card spending in Korea is expected to top 700 trillion won. That's around $634 billion this year. According to data compiled by KB Financial Group, that's an increase of roughly 10 trillion won from last year, when the figure was an estimated 690 trillion won. The group says that despite the increased use, local credit card firms may not see their profitability improve this year. That's largely due to a continued drop in spending and use of cash advance services by individual card holders. Since the 1997 Asian financial crisis, the government has encouraged credit card spending as a way of boosting domestic demands. Now, most Koreans use multiple cards, which has helped boost spending. In fact, over the past few years, Koreans' card spending is often regarded as a measure of private consumption. Now, Koreans love to eat noodles, but of all the varieties that are available, ramyeon is by far the most popular. It's extremely simple to make and very quick to eat. And Korea eats more of the stuff than any other country in the world. For this week's Industry Insight, our Shin Se-min delves into the country's instant noodle market.
The average Korean slurps up on 74 packets of ramyeon or instant noodles every year. Now that breaks down to 1 packet every 5 days. Now Korean ramen companies are exporting their products to every corner of the world so you can have a taste of Korean ramyeon. 3 minutes is all you need to get it ready. Widely known for being packed with calories and carbohydrates, but still loved by the masses, Korean ramyeon is embedded in the culture. The concept of ramyeon was first introduced by Samyang Foods in the early 1960s as a means to feed those suffering from food shortages. The packet with high nutrition was a quick solution to many Koreans' malnourished stomachs. In the 60 years since, ramyeon has become a comfort food for many Koreans.
The flavor of ramyeon can be played around with. It's spicy and you can add in vegetables or seafood for a different taste. It's one of the reasons many consumers like Korean ramyeon.
Domestically, the ramyeon market grew to $1.8 billion, up 500 million in just past 5 years. Korean ramyeon makers didn't stop there. They're expanding overseas. The noodles can now be found in some 120 countries worldwide.
Ramyeon itself takes up 18% of all agricultural and food exports. A lot of factors come into play. The Korean wave is one. It caught on in the Chinese market, which is now the largest overseas consumer of Korean ramyeon.
The road to success hasn't been without obstacles. Various regulations in certain countries once kept ramyeon makers out of foreign markets. Take Turkey, for example. Samyang was barred from introducing its ramyeon product in the country due to Turkish regulations on the labeling of GMO food products. And in the U.S., strict food import regulations that contain beef hindered the export of Korean-made ramyeon. But that problem was solved by setting up a local factory.
Reaching out to different markets is always a challenge, but we continue to explore customers with different backgrounds. For instance, we are working on entering the African and European markets now.
Samyang Food Corporation wants ramyeon to become a household name throughout the world. And until the company is able to bypass the obstacles to entering the untapped markets, their experimentations with the flavors of Korean ramyeon that will suit foreign palates is an ongoing project. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
Well, now it's time for a look through the global headlines we're following on this Monday morning from Seoul. For that, we turn to Eunice Kim, who's standing by for us, as always, at the news centre. Good morning, Eunice.
And good morning to you, Mark. Recovery teams hope to re-enter the Java Sea when light hits later today to continue their search for a downed AirAsia flight 8501. A weekend of bad weather and tough conditions had forced divers to suspend their operation to locate the plane's fuselage. That's where most of the bodies are believed to be. Divers did, however, recover at least 3 more bodies on Sunday, bringing the count to 34. Large pieces of wreckage were also spotted using sonar technology, some measuring about 18 meters long. 9 ships from 4 countries are zoning in on a search area about 90 nautical miles off the coast of Borneo Island. Indonesia's weather agency said initial analysis showed the plane's engine may have stalled due to icy conditions in the air. Indonesian officials also told various media that AirAsia was not authorized to fly the Surabaya to Singapore route on Sundays, though it was licensed on 4 other days of the week. AirAsia has said it will fully cooperate with investigations. The Airbus had lost contact with air traffic control 2 Sundays ago, less than an hour into the flight. In a move seen as a further diversification of the Catholic Church, Pope Francis has named 20 new cardinals from 14 different countries, including the developing world. Appointees from nations such as Myanmar, New Zealand, and Ethiopia represented every continent on the globe. 15 of them were younger than 80 years old, making them eligible to vote for the next pontiff. With this appointment, Pope Francis has now selected more than 1/4 of the cardinals who can vote for his successor. The nominees are to be formally installed on February 14th after a meeting of all cardinals to discuss reform of the Roman Curia, or the Vatican's administrative body. The city of New York became a sea of blue as police officers from the city, as well as those from across the U.S., filled a Brooklyn funeral home on Sunday to grieve the passing of Chinese-American officer Wen Jianliu. The 32-year-old had been shot point-blank together with his partner Rafael Ramos on December 20th by a gunman who said he wanted to avenge police aggression. New York's Mayor Bill de Blasio paid tribute to the man who fought for, quote, all that is decent and good after immigrating from China with the American dream. Now, outside the building, hundreds of uniformed officers turned their backs to the video screen showing the mayor. Many in the NYPD have shown resentment against de Blasio's sympathy for anti-police protesters in recent months. And finally, Buckingham Palace has emphatically denied the allegations that Prince Andrew had sexual contact with an underage woman more than a decade ago. The strongly worded statement came after 2 Sunday newspapers had published interviews with a woman who said she was forced to have sexual relations between the years of 1999 through 2002 in places including London, New York, and a private Caribbean island owned by American billionaire and convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. A court in Florida is reviewing a lawsuit involving Epstein, who was jailed for soliciting a minor for prostitution.
And a good Monday morning to you all as we kick things off with the Korean national football team who faced off against Saudi Arabia on Sunday in their final tune-up match before going into the 2015 Asian Cup. Now, despite manager Uli Stölke focused on the offense throughout the match, the Korean national team unable to find the back of the net in the first half as the first goal comes in the 66th minute on an own goal by Saudi Arabia's Osama Hawasawi, giving Korea the 1-0 lead. But in the 90th minute, it's Booyah! Korea finally scores, and it's none other than Lee Jung-hyup who scores in his national team debut match, giving Korea the 2-0 lead and the win. Meanwhile, Korea kicks off their Asian Cup group stage match against Oman this Saturday. And now moving over to figure skating, where the National Figure Skating Championship is set to take place at the Mokdong Ice Rink in Seoul this week. And giving out the medals on the final day will be figure queen Kim Yeon-ah. Now, with Kim Yeon-ah's kids competing at the national championships this week, Kim Yeon-ah, who's as cool as the other side of the pillow, will be on hand on the final day to give out the medals to the winners. It'll be a special moment here in the nation since it'll be the first time she'll make an appearance at the domestic competition since her retirement in February. Now, Kim Yeon-ah, who has long been supportive of her juniors, have been visiting them once a week to give them pointers while continuing her education. Now, PGA's Bae Sang-moon's golf swings might be as cool as the other side of the pillow, but he might play his final golf tournament this week before heading over to military. Now, the 29-year-old who has permanent residency in the States was not granted an extension for overseas travel visa and is forced to serve his mandatory military service. And while the option to earn an American citizenship still remains open, the two-time PGA Tour winner knows it's an option that will cause problems later on. Meanwhile, Bae Sang-moon is set to compete at the Hyundai Tournament of Champions this week, as it might even be his final event before serving his military service. And now moving over to baseball, there's a little more than 2 weeks left until Nexen hero slugger Kang Jong-ho and the Pittsburgh Pirates need to finalize a deal. But with the lack of talk between the two sides, are the Pirates really interested in Kang Jong-ho? Well, with rumors coming out that the Pirates bid on Kang Jong-ho in order to prevent the other teams from signing him, his agent Alan Nero came out in an interview recently confirming that the Pirates are interested in signing Kang Jong-ho and that it's not a booyah move by the team. Now, despite the packed infield, the Pirates might look into trading Jordy Mercer for prospects, leaving the shortstop position open for Kang. But everyone in Korea have their fingers crossed, as they've already seen two KBO players fail to sign with a major league team this offseason. Now, finishing things off, you might have noticed my overuse of terms like booyah and as cool as the other side of the pillow today. Well, it's because Stuart Scott, who's made those catchphrases famous, passed away early Sunday morning after a long battle with cancer. Now, long considered as one of the most entertaining sportscasters, he was 49 years old and a proud father of 2 daughters. And with that said, that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Good morning. Well, it should be another mild winter day, a tad milder than yesterday, and even some regions down south will see highs reaching into mid to upper teens this afternoon. And skies will stay sunny for the morning hours, but as we head into the afternoon, lots of clouds will roll in and drop either rain or snow in many parts. But it should be rain due to unseasonably mild temperatures. But the drivers in the inland regions are urged extra caution in foggy and low visibility conditions this morning. With that in mind, let's take a closer look at the relatively mild readings for today. Now, the low in Seoul is kicking off at -1, then the top temperature will hike up to 6, while Daegu and Gwangju should peak at 12 and 11, and Busan will top out at 15 this afternoon. And as for the other regions, Jeju Island will be quite warm, rising to 18, while Daejeon and Dokdo will be getting up to 9 and 10, respectively. Well, that's all for Korea, and here's the international weather for viewers around the world.
Well, that's going to do it for now. Korea Today is coming up at the top of the hour, 7 a.m. Korea time. Have a wonderful day. Stay tuned to Arirang. Goodbye.